Speaking, because you just said like the Army and Navy. How did you feel when your sons, my dad and Uncle Sean, both went into the military?
Well, that's what they wanted to do. And so, I always told them I want them to be happy at what they decided to do for their life. And so, when they went, I was happy for them. I hate to see them leave home that young, but I cried for 2 months. But after, then I got used to them being away. But I wasn't against them going in any way.
Oh, okay.
Because that's what they had decided to do. I wanted them to use their decision, not mine. Because they had to live their life just like I would live mine.
Why you had a question?
This one.
Which one? This one?
Right about it. That one.
How did you and Grandpa Frank meet?
How did we meet?
Mm-hmm.
We had been knowing each other all our life. Just as well say all our life. I think I was about 6 years old and he was about 10 when we got to know each other. And he used to live on the other side of Tarleton. And they moved down in this area. And we were already here, already lived in this area. And so we all rode the school bus together and went to school together. And so we had just been really knowing each other, I'll say, for a lifetime. And so that's how I really got to know him.
Okay. So like back then, like, was there like because I know like nowadays my generation, it's like they'll meet someone, then they'll have like a talking stage, and then they'll go into dating, and then they'll like relationship. What was it like back then for you guys?
Well, it was probably about the same, not too much different, but back then, mostly, the dating started more earlier than nowadays. Children start, talking. I won't say dating. They're not going out. But they start talking in earlier age than they do now. Yeah.
I think might answer. Actually, what are, I guess, your views or opinions on like how like my generation is compared to your generation, and like I guess just like the mentality or the things that we think are important and stuff like that?
Well, then I started then. Then we had more time, I'll say, to think about what was more important for us, because we didn't have all this technology stuff that children have these days, like you all have. We didn't have that. And so now, that's what they rely on. They rely on TVs, I'll say telephone mostly, their phones, because everything is on the phone, and doing videos and stuff like that. We didn't have that. So we just had plenty of time to think, work, 'cause we had chores to do. Every day we had a chore picked out for us to do, and we had to do that. But now, everything is right there set out. It's already done. You know, we lived in the country. We had to draw our water out of wells. We didn't have all that running water like, you know, it is now. We had to wash with our hand. Everybody didn't have washing machine. We had to hang our clothes up on the line to dry. We didn't have dryers. And most of us had wood stoves. You had to cut wood to make a fire in your stove to cook with and have a fire to keep warm by. And see, now you don't have to do that. And so that's why I guess it's more going on with the younger people now than it were then. Well, it was things going on then now. I'm not putting it in a perfect way. It was things going on then, but I'll say now more going on because young people don't have nothing to do now to keep their mind occupied on, you know, I won't say the right thing, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but they don't have enough to keep their mind occupied on doing what they should be doing. I put it like that. Yeah.
What was it? You mentioned like you had to like wash your clothes and things like that. Do you remember if there was like ever like I guess like any like bullying? Like say a kid or their family didn't have the time or resources to wash their clothes for whatever reason, and they came to school dirty. Do you ever like remember any child getting bullied because of that or made fun of?
No, we didn't do that. Sure did. If we see somebody that needed something that we had, we would always share. I'll share my clothes. I tell you what, at that time when I was young growing up, people were growing chickens. And, you know, they had just like farm, and they would have chicken houses, and they would have to buy their chicken feed. And the chicken feed was in cotton bags, pretty little bags like pillowcases. And you could keep those bags and wash them and use them for different things. And my mom have taken so many of those little bags with just alike, and she'll make me little skirts and dresses out of them to wear to school. And, you know, I'll be just as clean as anybody else. And then a lot of other children, a lot of other little girls and boys, some ladies used to make their little boys shirts. They would buy out their pants, but they would make their shirts. And sometimes didn't have a sewing machine. They would make them on the hand, sew them on the hand. Sure did. We came up in a hard way, but we came up in a way to appreciate what we had.
Was it with? I'll put this over here real quick. With like growing up in the South when you did, I'm sure you have to deal with like the racism and Jim Crow laws. I guess like how was that, having to deal with that growing up?
Well, we dealt with it. It was like you go to, I'll say now, the fast food restaurants, everybody go in or either go through the window and get your food. At that time, we would have to go outside to just a little hole like window and order what you wanted and they would stick it through the window. You didn't go inside. We couldn't go inside to order or sit down to eat for a long time. That's when I was small. And so that's the way it was, and we just dealt with it. But after years went by, you know, things got to changing, and it got where we could go on the inside. But in some places, the blacks had one room and the whites had another one. So you couldn't go in the white section, the white part. I remember, and it lasted for a while, long time. I remember when I was pregnant with my first child. I was 20 years old, and I was about 7 months pregnant. So when I had to go to the doctor that morning, so when I got there, the little room where we had to sit, it was already packed. People standing all outside. I said, I went in, and after I saw everybody in there, come on back out. And I said, I ain't standing up. I ain't able to stand up. I don't feel like standing up this long. And something just touched me that morning. And so with nobody around on the other side, but one man and lady in the white side, I said, I'm going in here and I'm going to sit down. So one older guy, he was there, he said, baby, don't go in there. You know you don't supposed to go on that side. I said, I'm going to sit down. So I went in, I went round the corner and I opened the door and I went in. I signed my name on the pad, what they had laying up there in the window, and I got me a chair and I sat down. So I told that man and lady what was in there, good morning. They told me good morning. So I didn't say anything else to them. I sat there. And when they came and they called them to come back, you know, in the room, and they went on back. So in probably about 15 minutes, they came back, they called me to come in. I went on back. So when they finished with me and I come out, the other people, some of them, a good many of them what was standing on the outside, they were still standing out there. And they tried, they run you out of there, didn't they? I said, no, they didn't. I said, I seen the doctor, I'm finna go home. Yeah, I said, I'm finna go home. Because I just wasn't standing up that morning. I wasn't standing up. All they could do was tell me to get out. And I would have got out and went and found me another doctor. But didn't nobody say anything, you know, harsh or out the way to me. Yeah. So I went in that morning. So after that, you know, every once in a while, you would see a black person on that side. Yeah. But finally they got where they just mixed it up.
So like, what that was, because you said there was a black side and a white side. It was like the same doctor's office. Oh, okay.
It was two doctors there, and the white would go in the front, and you had to go around to the side. That's where the black was. They were around on the side. But it was the same doctor's office. It was just, you know, two different doctors there.
Oh, the camera again. So, what was it? You said you were 7 months pregnant. How did it feel? How did you feel when you first learned that you were pregnant for the first time?
Oh, I felt happy. Yeah, I didn't feel, you know, like I didn't want a baby or anything like that. I probably would have if I had a husband that, you know, I felt he might have not wanted it. But I had a pretty good husband. You know, nobody's perfect, but I had a pretty good husband. And so we both, you know, we felt happy about it. Yeah, we were real young. I got married when I was 19 years old, and he was almost 23. Well, I was going to be 20 that April. And we got married early. We were young, but we stayed together 55 years, so we must have a pretty good marriage.
Mm-hmm. What would you say is the key to a long marriage?
Being honest with yourself and your partner, your spouse. Yeah, be honest. Love is the first thing. You got to love each other first. Yeah, make sure. Don't just think you love somebody and say you want to marry them. You love them for who they are. Yeah, love them for who they are, not what you want them to be, but who they are themselves. And after that, you got to be honest with each other. You got to be truthful to each other. And so you got to learn to, recognize each other's, I won't say their downfall. You recognize what the other one wants in life, and it's just so much that you have to go through in marriage until it's no two marriages alike. I tell you that. It's no two marriages alike. But those are some of the things that you really got to do to make a pretty good marriage. Nobody's marriage is perfect. Nobody gonna agree on everything. And so you're gonna have disagreements. You're gonna have little arguments. But you got to have the willpower to make it up, let it go. Don't never stay together all day or either all night being mad with each other. Always, try to make it up. Even if one have to leave out of the house, just leave, go riding, go walking, but get your mind settled. When you come back, make it up. So you'll make it. You'll make it. You got to have the willingness to do it though. But you'll make it. I'm not gonna tell. I won't tell. I just tell it like it is. I won't tell a lie and say I never got mad with my husband. And I used to tell him, "Don't you tell a lie and say you never got mad with me," because we had arguments. And we didn't have falling outs, but we had arguments, we had disagreement, but we always talked it over and made it up. We never separated, or anything like that. So I think we did pretty good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think he was proud of me and I was proud of him.
You got, what was it? 5 kids and how many grandkids?
I got 5 kids, 3 sons, 2 daughters. I got 10 grandkids, 5 grandsons, and is 5 grandsons? I want to get it right. I know I got 10 grandkids, and I got children and step grandchildren. I think I got more step grandchildren than I got biological. But I call all of my children and my grandchildren. I appreciate all of them. Yeah.
Anybody got any questions? How'd you feel when you first learned that you were going to be a grandmother?
Well, at first, I was fine with being a grandmother, but I really wasn't I wasn't expecting for my daughter to have a baby right then. But being a grandmama, that was going to be all right with me. But, you know, I just wasn't expecting for her to have a baby. She was 21, but I wasn't expecting for her to have a grandbaby a baby right then. But after, you know, she told me she was pregnant, we got all right with it. Yeah. So that's my oldest granddaughter, and she's the oldest grandchild. And she's 38. She'll be 38 this year.
Okay. That's that one. What do you remember most about your grandparents?
Well, my grandmother, she always lived in Florida. But I was raised up in the house with my great-grandparents. But my grandmother always lived in, that was my mama's mom. She lived in Florida. And I never knew my daddy's parents, neither one of those. I didn't know them. But I did know my grandmother on my mom's side. And she would come to visit us every year from Florida. And she's a sweet little lady, little short lady, probably about 4 feet 11. Yeah. Yeah, they would come and visit us. I had 2 aunts that lived with her, my mom's sisters, all 3 of them. They lived together. My youngest aunt, she was 5 years older than me. And so we would be glad to see them. And me and Mom, we did go down to see them every once in a while.
Do you remember where about in Florida they lived?
At first, they were living in Sanford. When Grandmama was living, they were living in Sanford, Florida. And after Grandmama died, my 2 aunts moved to Boynton Beach. And they lived there for a while. And then after they lived in Boynton, they went to West Palm Beach. And that's where both of them passed that in West Palm Beach.
If you didn't live in Georgia, what state would you have lived in or wanted to live in?
If I didn't live in Georgia,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I really haven't thought about that. Because I've been in Georgia all of my life, and I like here. This is my home. I like here, and so one day before I leave this world, I might have to go to another state, but I just haven't really thought about a special state to live in. But I have been to Virginia and Washington, and South Carolina, Florida. I've been to Louisiana, but if I had to go somewhere, I would go to Washington, D.C.
Okay.
That's where I would rather live. But I like up there, okay. I like up there, all right. Yeah, but Georgia's just my home.
Mm-hmm.
Old Southern Georgia.
If anybody doesn't have any more questions, that's the end of our end of my interview.
All right.
Mhm.
Hope I said something that you could use so you enjoyed hearing.
I did.